You applied for a housing lottery. Now what? Well, in this video, we're going to break down what actually happens after you apply and answer the question of how long it takes. Okay, so the first step in the actual process is the application period. Now, this period can last anywhere between 1 to 3 months total. And that's because the housing lottery does not start pulling names after the application closes. During this period, you can apply for the lottery either online through Housing Connect or by requesting a paper application. The online applications are typically the best ways because you can get through it the fastest. But if you're not the most tech savvy, you can do the paper application and submit it either directly to the landlord or by mailing it to their PO box that they should have installed. Once the application period closes, they give it an additional week for any paper applications to reach the mailbox before taking them all out and one by one entering these paper applications into Housing Connect. This is all done under the supervision of either HPD or HDC to make sure no fraudulent applications are being run or any duplicates are being entered. Once the paper applications are put in, that's when every applicant will be given a log number. A log number is essentially going to be your place in line, and I talk more about that in the previous video when we went over key terms. Once the application period ends, it's time for the selection process. How this works is that the processors will start pulling batches either of 100, 200, even 500 plus applicants at a time. Each applicant within a batch will receive an email from Housing Connect requesting them to submit their documents. These documents consist of income documents like your pay stubs, assets like your bank statements, as well as ID documents like your state ID, driver's license, and social security cards. Each household can be given up to 2 rounds of document requests. Your first round of documents are due within 10 business days of receiving the invitation, and if there's a second request that's needed, you'll be given an additional 5 business days. If you don't respond at all within the first 10 business days, you'll automatically be rejected because you'll be counted as a no-show. If you want to get ahead of the game, you can actually pre-download some of these documents, including your IDs, your tax returns, and your social security cards. Just make sure that they aren't documents that need to be frequently updated, like your pay stubs or your bank statements. And a pro tip, you can actually download the list ahead of time by going to HPD's website and looking for the marketing handbook. In there, there's a file where you can download the entire checklist, and I talk more about that in the previous video going over Housing Connect listings. All in all, for this process, you're looking at anywhere between 6 to 18 months. And the reason this takes so long is because applications need to be reviewed in log number order from lowest to highest, and the set-asides have to be filled first before the preferences and before the general lotteries. So you may be waiting a bit longer depending on your place in line. Once you've had your name called and you submitted all your documents, you think you're done, right? Nope, because now your application has to go to HPD or HDC for final approval. With this process, they will take your full file, double check the income calculations, make sure all the documents are there, and either give their final stamp of approval, or if they find any issues, they may request a third request of documents for additional clarification. Now, this process is usually faster than the initial request of documents, so I would say this takes about 1 to 2 months. This can take a bit longer depending on how many applications they're receiving from a specific lottery. So if you go past the 2-month mark, I always recommend contacting HPD, which you can do on the bottom of Housing Connect's website. Once you get that final stamp of approval, it is time for the lease signing process, which is the best step. You're going to be invited by the property management team either to the building or to their office, and you're going to sign your lease. You're going to go over the rules of the building, and depending on when you're looking to move in, can even pick up your keys that day. But please note, during this day, you need to come into the office with first month's rent and 1 month security in hand ready to pay. These payments can be made either by cashier check, money order, or electronic payment if the landlord does accept that. And also note, if you're coming with any vouchers, Section 8, City FEPS, HASA, SODA, just because you signed the lease does not mean your process is over. That's because the actual subsidy has to go through their approval process, which consists of inspections. They go through all the paperwork of the building, make sure the building is actually up to code. And if your subsidy rejects the apartment, that means you'll have to withdraw your name from consideration. In total, between lease signings and moving in, you could probably see like an additional 1 to 3 months for this process, depending on how soon you're looking to move and whether or not you have that voucher. So yeah, this process does take some time, but the more you know, the better prepared you're going to be for when your name gets called. And if you haven't done so, be sure to check out the first 3 videos of this playlist because they're jam-packed with tips that will help you the next time you decide to apply for housing lotteries.